kiddos. I'm Anita, I'm a meditation teacher, and I'm here to talk to you in this video about the number one reason why people don't meditate even though they know it's amazing. I just heard a benefit that was brand new to me the other day, that it helps to lengthen or keep the length of the telomeres. This is important. That's connected to Alzheimer's and all sorts of things. Like, we know all of these things that they're like, oh yeah, meditation helps you with sleep, and it helps you with this, and relationships, and cognitive thinking, and all sorts of things. And so when people hear, oh, you're a meditation teacher? Oh my gosh, I totally want to do that, but I can't. And the reason is at the root, it's your mind is telling you, that's boring, that's boring, that's boring. Most of the time it comes in the form of I don't have time, or I can't sit still, or I can't quiet my busy mind. Those are all like random odd things related to the root of like, that's boring. And if I spend all time doing that, am I really going to get these benefits? Because you haven't tasted it for yourself. And that's what I love about this practice. It's not about me telling you, but at some point you have to get over the hump, like of the mind of going, okay, I got to get past that, whatever this thing that's stopping me. Because yes, on the other side of this are amazing, awesome benefits, right? But also it's not a blind fate. That's what I love about this practice. It's like you experience it for yourself. You get experiential wisdom about it as to whether it's worth it or not. What I also love about this practice is it's so not boring. If you're doing it right, it's not boring, and you can actually stick a meditator anywhere, sitting in line at the bank, or a delay in the airport, or wherever, and they're not going to most likely be bored because you deconstruct the bullshittery of boredom. You deconstruct two things as a meditator related to boredom. The concept of novelty and novelty seeking that we do, that Esther Perel says as humans, right? Like, she's documented this. The last living Buddha figured this out 2,500 years ago. And also what Brene Brown pointed out was joys in the ordinary moments. And I love that these two ladies pointed this out for us, researched this stuff and said, hey, this is important. Hey, this is important. Same thing that this contemplative practices have been figuring out for literally thousands of years. This is old wisdom and technology. It's not been accessible to the average human because it's been held in these lineage guru type systems, but it's breaking out of those molds. So how does it deconstruct boredom? How does it deconstruct this constant novelty seeking? And let's talk about that for one sec, because that constant novelty seeking is also the constant like dopamine hit seeking. We want novel, new experiences. They are really leaving us flatlined. There's a meaning crisis, and it's because that novelty seeking is often outside. When I get that vacation, I'll be happy and I'll take a rest. When that event happens, when I get that toy, ooh, I'm going to pick up the phone. That's going to entertain me for a while, right? This is all outside happiness conditioned upon something outside us, right? So when that happens, it wonks. It makes our dopamine system all so wonky. Like, we get that high hit of dopamine, whatever, social media, the phone, the quick fix, or the thing, or whatever, and then we crash. And the bigger that buildup is, and it's never going to be exactly as our mind tells it is, because our mind constructs this really cool story of how we'll feel when we get it, which is always bullshit. Anyway, that's bullshit. That's another thing you learn to deconstruct. It's like, oh, that's so silly and funny, because it could be infinitely better, and you could never even imagine it. You just got to be in it. And then it's not what we think it is, and then we crash really hard. And as we know from Brene Brown, the joy is not in those big epic events. There is joy in those epic events. There is joy in having a new car. There is joy in all those things. It's where 10% of the joy is. The other 90% of the joy that we can open up the conduit to is in the ordinary moments. That's what she's trying to say. Hey, you're stuck over here and chasing 10% of joy. Like, let's open the aperture up. And they call this one taste in these ancient traditions or wisdom, one taste or beatific vision. You just start to walk through life with a more equal value. So you're not discerning like, I don't like the daisy because I like the rose. So I don't care about the daisies. Like, you see the beauty in the daisy, and you see the beauty in the shit pile compost that you're digging your hands in and you're smelling. Because you are present more in everyday, ordinary moments. There to open up, access joy. It's there, always accessible to us. 2 conditions, universal human conditions: presence and awareness, equanimity. Not jumping to place value on or devaluing. What we normally do is devalue 90%. Hear this now. We devalue like over 90% of our experiences in life. And so what we're doing is we're taking our valuation system from enjoying this much and not enjoying this other 90% to being like, oh wait, we're going to get a little bit more towards equal value. And it doesn't mean you don't have discernment and you don't prefer being on the beach rather than being stuck at the airport for those extra 10 hours. But you're also not ruminating and miserable and bored while you're at the airport. And how this works exactly is, as a meditator, you learn 3 skills. You're learning 3 attentional skills. We'll take out the questioning or the weirdness out of it. You're training 3 attentional skills. Concentration power, the ability to concentrate. When your brain goes to default mode network, which Buddha figured this out 2,500 years ago. Modern science is now going, oh wait, our brain is a default network mode. Slips in. It does this all the time. We got to start seeing it. They haven't quite figured out the how and the why and the auguring back that meditation has, but they're getting some of the labels right. They're starting to figure some of this out. But your brain has a default mode. So you are on like a 7-Eleven store. You're on like a convenience store 24/7, your sensory system. And it gets pinged by sounds. Somebody tells you something. Visuals, you see somebody, recognize somebody. You sense something, you feel it emotionally. And sometimes it's one thing, and that one thing like pings a thought or an emotion, which pings a thought or a sensation. And then before you know it, you've coagulated. And you've gone from like, you see a face to the end point of you've cognized that you know that face and you recognize that face and you don't like that face and you want to run away. So a meditator gets to like auger back in time, literally auger back into the sensory system as it gets pinged and goes, oh, there is a person approaching. There is this sensation in my body, the visual, my visual. And this is important because you're going to get to know the second skill you're getting to know is this, the sensory system of the body, my sensory system. Oh, my sense stores of the eyes have cognized that person. And I do recognize that person. And there's this sensation or feeling. I'm looking to see whether I like them. Oh, that story that I don't like them was so long ago. I wonder how they've changed as a human being. And like there's openness and spaciousness and curiosity. It's kind of like getting out of that person that's like, I hate that vegetable. Because they hated that vegetable when they was a kid, but they've always like that vegetable aperture is closed to them forever. And it's because of a weird texture thing or a weird something or what, but it's because their default mode network has told them 100,000 times to no, remember we figured that out a long time ago. You don't like that vegetable. You don't like, it doesn't matter what they put it in. It doesn't matter how they prepare it. You don't fucking like that vegetable until lo and behold, voila, you're in Italy and you're like, oh, this is how this vegetable was supposed to be eaten. And it doesn't mean that you have to love tomatoes, but we're recognizing, oh, I devalued that entire vegetable. I devalued that entire group of people because they weren't part of my political system. I devalued that entire group of people because they weren't part of my religious system of belief, my default mode network. I put that into my default mode network and packaged that up, and I don't have to do that work. I don't have to explore that. Osho has said once before, that was the most brilliant way I've heard this, is once we do that, that concept, that vegetable, that thing dies to us, is no longer an option to enjoy. So whenever that comes up, it's either a dead zone to us and we don't recognize it, or it's a dead zone to us in that we can never enjoy it. Even though those conditions will arise hundreds of thousands of times during our lifetime. It's like we're cutting out. And so you can stick a meditator anywhere, and most likely they're not going to be bored because they're curious. You see the beauty in the rose and the compost pile, because meditation turns on your curiosity. So more curiosity and openness and creativity become your default mode network, rather than categorizing, labeling, limiting. And I would say that's the biggest benefit to this practice, like profoundly. Although I am always saying, oh no, that's the biggest benefit. Oh no, that. So there are so many plethora of amazing benefits to this practice. But like, we can't, until we get over the hump, you are the goldfish in the water. And so hopefully maybe this explanation is explaining it to you in a different way that your mind can maybe like relax a little bit, and you can actually try it for yourself. And if you're ready to try it for yourself, I like to start people off with a blueprint. We talk about how what parts of your sensory system are you're already innately connected to, that are innately and turned on. Some of us like sounds and music, and we explore life and we enjoy life through that sense door more than we do the visual, or more than we do the emotional, or more than we do this one. And so it's like, oh, well, where do I already have traction? Where has the sensory system, where have I already unconsciously been playing with my sensory system? And how can I juice that and like get a jump start there? And then also down the line know, okay, I want to start opening up the other categories of my sensory system to really get full on sensory clarity. Yeah. So I'm curious how that lands with you. Please post a comment below or question, or I'll post the link to the blueprint below if you want to do it. You're welcome. And I teach courses, and I take people on very thoughtful, cultivated, for the modern Western human retreats out in nature. Noble silence, noble speech. I've picked and pulled all of the really good gems from where all of the retreats that I've been on, over 150 days of silent retreat. Like, oh, that was a gem, or that practice has a gem. I love the way they connect to metta, or I love the way they connect to samatha, shamatha, calm abiding, or I love the way they connect to the deconstruction, insight producing vipassana bit of the practice. And so it's like the whole time is cultivated, and there's art, and there's creativity, and there's play with your sensory system in a more lighthearted way. When I went to my first station, I was like, don't do yoga. Don't do any part of this Western physical movement yoga. And kind of they were right, because that's only this part of yoga, what we're doing in the West, but yoga, like what we were actually coming to do was the real yoga down here. So he was like, okay, forget that for a little bit so you can actually get down here. But I think you can actually use that. It's meant to be a bridge to get down there. So after teaching yoga for all those years, I was like, oh, no, this actually helped me as a bridge to get there. Why are we not bridging the gaps? Bridging the gaps, let's bridge the gaps. So that's kind of my style and methodology and the way I teach. And if that interests you or sparks something in you, then welcome aboard. Have a great day.